presenters today from the Prince George Hospice Palliative Care Society. Together, Erin and Laurie will be sharing the work of connecting minds through compassionate hearts. And this will be looking at how community-minded partners are building and have been building a dementia-inclusive culture to help reduce stigma, raise awareness, and empower supports for people living with early onset and helping them age in place. So Erin Connelly is the operation director at the Prince George Society. She's born in Prince George. She has a master's of education in counseling. She is a clinical counselor and has over 20 years working for Indigenous social service agencies. She is passionate about the nonprofit community work and the sector that brings wellness and caring for members of her community, the greater Prince George area. And alongside of her is Laurie Croos. You're waving who's who over there. And Laurie has been a licensed practical nurse for over 35, 37 years. She has an advanced diploma in gerontology. She's an end-of-life doula and has been working with dementia education for over 14 years, primarily in Northern British Columbia. So these two gals are representing the work that has been done in the past couple of years around connecting minds and compassionate hearts. And so I just welcome you and invite you to begin, Laurie and Erin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melody. And I want to acknowledge that Prince George is on the traditional territory of the Connelly First Nation. We're very excited that you've joined us today. This is a bit of a passion project of ours, and we love to talk about it to anyone who will listen. So this all started with the University of BC reaching out to our hospice about work they were doing on compassionate dementia-inclusive communities. So they had funding from Health Canada to look at this social health movement to reduce stigma, raise awareness, and offer empowering supports. So part of this is the Compassionate Communities movement, where we focus on supportive networks where people care for one another during serious illness, caregiving, or grief. And the other part is the Dementia-Inclusive Communities movement, where we look to create environments where people with dementia can live with dignity, can live independently, and participate in society without stigma. And part of this movement is also incorporating NavCare. I'm sure many of you have heard of NavCare, and this is NavCare for dementia that we were trained in and train our volunteers in as part of this project. So we together identified what we would do for our community with this funding and with this opportunity. Laurie and I didn't just cook it up. We did a community survey. We have an advisory group that includes people living with dementia, their caregivers, volunteers, and the professionals in Prince George who work with those living with dementia. And out of those ideas, we chose some interventions to deliver in Prince George. And we're just going to be speaking about one of those interventions today, which is the one that the hospice is doing. But this program is done in partnership with the Prince George Council of Seniors and the University of British Columbia as well. So what we wanted to do was to honor people's individual identity, their interests, and build a program around that rather than putting out what we thought would be interesting or fun or great to do. We wanted to have evidence-based. So in addition to what UBC asked of us in return for the funding, we involved UNBC to look at how we could gather data on this program is making a difference or it's not, or like what is the meaning from the data. And so we wanted to also be forward thinking. The volunteers that are involved in this program have extensive training. Laurie is an expert in dementia, as she will tell you. And so she was really able to bring that knowledge of dementia and Alzheimer's to our volunteers and to me and to our staff. So what we want to talk about is this idea of squaring the curve. So research has shown that people living with dementia can be healthier for longer before the decline that's going to happen, rather than this steady expected decline, if these things are in place. And these things are focusing on social, mental, physical aspects, as well as a purpose. So I'm going to talk about these pillars of our program a little bit, and then Laurie will bring them to life with stories and how we're actually doing that. So obviously social is, it's about connection. So it's about building on existing connection, doing new things with people you already are connected with, or doing things you haven't done in many years together, and remembering some of those things, as well as building connections with new people, other people living with dementia, other volunteers and staff. So an example of this would be visiting a popular lakeside park, which is something we did this week. Many people hadn't been there for many years. Some people had never been there. And it was a beautiful opportunity for that kind of connection. Physical is obviously being active, keeping active, becoming active, finding new ways to do that that are enjoyable, that are a little bit challenging, but in a way that is not intimidating. So we know that the people in the group that we're going to be talking about are at very different skill levels. When we went to the lake the other day, we had someone in a walker. We had someone in one of these cool bikes where you walk instead of pedal. I'd never seen one before. And then we've got people who go to the gym. So it's a real mix. And what Laurie's done is find these outdoor kinds of games that everyone is bad at. So she's got bocce ball where the balls are square. I'm not good at it. No one's good at it. And so we're all laughing at ourselves and we're just having a great time. And it's not competitive like the guy that goes to the gym is going to be good at everything and win everything. It's just not like that. So it's created this really fun vibe that's very non-threatening, very welcoming. And then mental is about learning new skills, building on skills we already possess, or sharing the things that we know, and teaching others has come out of this, like playing a game of crib and trying to remember all the rules together. And then purpose and belonging is something that's different than just there's a program and you're invited. It's a reason for you to be part of your family or community. It's something you are responsible for. So an example is one of the group members coming to help us decorate the medical facility here for Christmas. It was something we were looking forward to, reminding him about, that we did together, and was an enjoyable experience. Another example would be we've got a small garden here, and there's some group members that are going to take on the planting, the weeding, the watering, and maintaining that garden over the summer. In terms of research, we're using 2 assessments that UNBC helped us identify at intake, and then every 3 months that people are in the program, to look at, are they maintaining the skills they've had? Are those skills decreasing? Are they even increasing? What is going on? So we're able to speak to the impact of this program. This is a program with a big volunteer base. It does not have a lot of funding, but we're hoping we can make an impact with the resources that we have, and that data is going to be able to show if that's what's happening. But I'll pass it over to Laurie to bring some of the boring stuff I'm talking about to life and make it feel as though you guys were there too.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. So one of the things that's probably is important is, how do we know who is appropriate for the group? So we do have a referral that we sent out to agencies and healthcare professionals, but people can also self-refer to the program. And the criteria is evidence of modest cognitive decline in one or more domains: memory, attention, executive function, preserved independence in daily activities through greater effort, or compensatory strategies may be required. Cognitive deficits are not due to delirium or any other mental disorder. So that's kind of the criteria that we have. And then what we do is we back that on, once we have the referral, is we do quite an in-depth intake with them. And part of that intake is matching the pillars that Erin spoke about. So we're looking at physical, what kind of physical activities do they like, creative or artistic hobbies, social and community engagement, and emotional and spiritual wellness. They also do a form of likes. What do you like to do? What are hobbies that you like to do? What are things that you maybe struggle with, but you used to do? What are things that you've never done that you might like to try? And with all that information, it really helps to develop the program. And you can match likes, or part of this program, we can match one-on-one support as well. And that gives the one-on-one support volunteer a really good indication of the types of activities they could do with the person that they're supporting. And the volunteers also do the same form as well. So we know what volunteers like to match them with similar clients with one-on-one. And then we are doing, like Erin spoke about, we do a pre-survey and a post-survey. And those are all done on the initial visit. So it's quite in depth the first meeting, to try to get all the information we can to be able to support not only the person living with early stage dementia, but also the carer as well. And one of the really unique things about this program is it's for early stage people living with dementia, but it's also they can also invite a family member, a spouse. They can bring a friend if they like, and there's no charge to them. So some of the programs I can tell you about is one is it's called SIP Cafe, and that is to support, inspire, and pause. And it's a place where people living with early stage dementia can come, that are our clients that we have. And again, they can bring a friend with them if they like. And it's a place that they can just talk and have coffee and check in and touch base how their week was. And we do that every other week for an hour. And it's really nice because sometimes, they're laughing about their week, but also then sometimes they're talking about the challenges that I had a tough week because, I had trouble remembering something. So the focus is not necessarily the conversation about dementia. They actually do that naturally. So how SIP Cafe, so it's a core activity that strongly supports, again, all these 4 pillars. It's low pressure, it's a safe environment, non-judgmental. It's a place where the participants can engage in meaningful conversation. So a place where they can feel normal and not feel that they might say the wrong thing or say it 3 times. And Erin mentioned the crib game, and one of the great, it was such a nice day. We 4 guys were playing crib, and all of a sudden they paused and were laughing because they couldn't remember whose turn it was. So they just said, "Oh, we'll just go." So and it made it okay. So that was really nice. And we had one fellow that was just having a harder time to be able to count his cards, and everybody chipped in to support him to do that. And so we do that every other week. And how it supports the pillars is quality of life, which provides routine, enjoyment, and sense of a normal life. Physical well-being encourages light movement, but also hydration. And it also promotes social and emotional connection, conversation, and a sense of belonging. Purpose and identity reinforces roles as being friends. They're also community members, a part of the community, and active participants. So that is every other week. So in between that, we offer one indoor activity, and then we have another week that is an outdoor activity. So it's like SIP Cafe, indoor activity. The next week is SIP Cafe, next week is outdoor activity. And of course, everything's weather dependent. And we had a few really great events happen, and we had no snow. It's hard to go on a sleigh ride with horses without snow. So we had to kind of adapt for that. But some of the activities that we have done, and I'm just going to give you a highlight of some of the activities and how it really supports the pillars that we have. So one of the activities was the Railway Museum that we have here in Prince George. And it was really a walk through and conversations. We had a tour guide. You can go on the trains, and it's a really great day, and it was well attended, and it really was enhancing the quality of life through enjoyment and reminiscence. It's fostering social interactions, and it supported identity through past connections. We then also one night had a paint and pizza night, so you didn't have to have any skills whatsoever. I tried to lead a class through a paint job, and we had pizza, and everyone had fun because it didn't matter what anybody's paint job looked like, because art is a matter of perspective. And that really supported creativity, social engagement, self-expression, while enhancing enjoyment and connection again. Another one we did lately was we went and played mini golf. And again, that was enhancing physical activity. It was coordination, social interaction, and also having fun in a real silly environment. And I do want to say that a lot of the activities that we do really involve the community. Like, we're really trying to do, get the community involved with awareness, that reduction of stigma. And a lot of these activities are donated at no cost to us, or at a significant discount for us. So that's really important. So it's really involves more than just the people living with dementia, their care partners with hospice. It's really trying to be part of the community.
Can I just add?
Yes, please.
I also think it's helpful in reducing stigma. I think if I'm a staff at the Railway Museum and I'm like, oh, we got a big dementia group coming today, what the heck is that going to be like? And the people come and you can't even tell who's the helper and who's the staff and who's the person with dementia. I think it really makes dementia seem a little less scary and a little more normal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of the other things we've done is yoga. So again, we're looking at flexibility, balance, relaxation. Erin spoke about our bocce ball that we play with square blocks. And again, it's really set up for fun. It doesn't matter how you do it. And the interesting thing in our group, we have people attending anywhere from the age of 54 to about 86. So it's quite a range. So it's really, it takes a little bit of thought to figure out what kind of activity can you, like Erin said, that you can have that fits everybody. And so far, I think we've been quite successful at that. And when we talk about purpose is, when people start to have the diagnosis of dementia, often what they feel is they lose purpose. So how do we give purpose back to them? And, having that reason why we wake up in the morning. And Erin had spoke about the gardening. We're hoping we have a fence that needs to be painted, so we're going to have it prepped, and they're all about it. They've already got their plan on how we're going to help paint this fence. So and to them, it's giving back, right? So they quite enjoy that. And then some of the things that people have just spoke about, or comments that have come out in conversation is, this is from a person that was living with early stage dementia. And he said, thank you for having a place where we are seen as individuals and not our disease. And it's so important when we go to the doctor and we have something wrong, we're not always looked at as the person because they're trying to figure out what's wrong with us. And here, it doesn't matter. We're working with them at any point they are in their journey. A carer said, thank you for having a place we can attend together, or I can take a break. When we are together, we are laughing together, and we are creating positive moments. And it's really beautiful to see when family comes and they get to see their people who sometimes struggle maybe at home, and caring for someone with dementia is not easy. So the fact that they can gather in a place and laugh together, I think that is, I couldn't think of anything better that we could do to help them support quality of life and meaning. Another person living with dementia said, if it were not for the group, I would be at home with nothing to do. And now I am socializing with my new friends. And this is someone who really took a lot to get to try it. He just didn't think it was going to be for him and he wasn't going to do it. And all of a sudden, you know, he's the first one to come. And then with our one-on-one, we have two clients that are set up with one-on-one, and they each of them do individual things. But for one of the pairs that we have are two ladies, and they go to the hockey game. They went to Festival of Trees together. They have coffee together. It's just such a wonderful thing. And the daughter said to me, she said, you know, it's so nice to see my mom come home and she's excited about something and she's smiling, and, you know, she forgets some of the things we did, but she knows she had a good time. And I thought, you know, that's pretty powerful, right? To be able to offer that. And again, at no cost to anybody. So we're lessening that burden on carers as well. So one of the things we're doing is we're going to have a community cafe, and we were thinking, really, how do we reflect what this purpose has done for the individual or the participants? And so what we did, we decided we're doing almost a tree of life. And in the roots is words that when they were first diagnosed. So those words were things like lost, withdrawn, fearful, isolated, excluded, alone, embarrassed. And then we add our 4 pillars, so the interventions that we're trying to achieve from the program. And at the top, we have words like included, normalized, hopeful, building my confidence. I feel like I'm belonged, valued, connected, movement, happiness. And all those words come from the people in the group. They built the tree. So right there is a really good indicator, I think, of the value that this program has brought to individuals in early stage dementia and their families, their friends. I saw there was a question.
Yeah, I'll just tell a quick little story before we jump to the questions. There might be more in the chat. Just about inclusion. So we have a gentleman whose wife died a few years ago, and he's tried out a lot of different groups here at Hospice. We have a lot of groups that we can offer caregivers and grievers, and he has not been able to be successful in any of those groups because of how he presents, his short-term memory issues, and his flat affect. Other group members find him intimidating. Their feelings are hurt by him. It has been a struggle, but he really wants to be in a group and making connections. So he's joined our group with the folks living with dementia, and the group has accepted him because everyone's got their differences. It's normal to have differences in that group, and enjoyable conversations are taking place that fit his interests, like classic cars, and this is an example. So he's finally found his place, and this is his place.
Yeah.
Are there questions in the chat, Stephanie? Shall we open it up?
Yes, we do have a question in the chat. Who is funding it?
Yeah, so this funding comes from Health Canada and comes to us through UBC. And it is what I would call a pilot project. It is a limited time. However, it will live on in our organization. We've definitely seen the value of it, and we will continue to support it past the funding end.
And that's where that community donations, like they donate the service. And that's really our job of trying to involve the community in the program. And they get a thank you that says, thank you for your contribution for this program. Any other questions or thoughts or ideas?
So this is Melody here. So yeah, the program that the gals have outlined here is actually completed. However, one of the pieces, as they've said, as Laurie and Erin have said, is they were very committed to be sustainable. So something that is built now to carry on for the community beyond this funding period. So you have mentioned that funding, of course, the support is coming for the actual resources yourself from the Hospice Palliative Care Society, and you're working very intentionally with partners in the community to support the events, and I guess volunteers as well to continue to be part of the program and support individuals living with early onset. There's another question in the chat that says, what dementia training are you providing to your volunteers? That's a great question. Is there any awareness or volunteer training?
That is a great question. So we have gone through the NavCare program. So they're trained in the NavCare program, but also there's a dementia component from that. And then I also just added some things from experience I have as a dementia educator, like scenarios and different things like that as well.
Everyone might not know what NavCare is. Do you want to speak about what it is? Should I speak about what it is?
Yeah, go ahead and give an overview of NavCare. Yeah,
Laurie does the training, but I will explain what NavCare is. My understanding of NavCare is that it's about navigating it's for other things than dementia. Hospice has done work with NavCare in the past, but it's about training people to be supports as people navigate living with an illness, accessing resources, etc. Is that kind of it?
Well said. And that is one of the things, like we said, we were kind of talking on our portion, but we are a partnership with the Prince George Council of Seniors, and they're supporting the care partner aspect of the program. So in total, I think we had 32 volunteers trained in the program between both organizations to support either carers or people living with early stage dementia. And their portion is a lot of the navigation. So looking for resources, extra supports for carers living at home with their person who even maybe are more advanced in the disease. And support groups. They also do support groups.
Thanks, Melody, for adding that link.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead and unmute yourself. If it's not in the chat, that's okay. We're a small enough group here. Anything around the program or the guidelines or impact, or has it sparked some creativity for your organization that made you curious enough to come to this session?
I was just gonna say, Melody, too, like with NavCare, it's a combination of many resources, like especially the dementia component as well. So Alzheimer's Society Canada has part in it. There's a lot of components that contributed to that training that we use. So it's not just something we decided, oh, we're just gonna talk about dementia. It's quite a good program. And a question I get just out of interest is why is Hospice doing this program? And we're really trying to promote palliative wellness, that quality of life, how to keep people at home, all those sort of things.
But that's a great comment. Like, why is Prince George presenting on this echo here? And one of the questions is, what is the purpose of you sharing the details of this program? Excuse me, are you advocating for others to start a community program? The answer would be yes and yes. One is that there were 6 sites in this particular program across Canada that were developing their compassionate community initiatives for persons living with dementia specifically. And in British Columbia, there was a few sites, including the Prince George Hospice Palliative Care Society. And a wellness approach, when someone is diagnosed with a serious illness or a life-limiting illness, such as dementia, early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, it changes everything about their life, for their family, for their caregivers, employment, well-being, everything changes. But quality of life and meaning and purpose are challenged as well. And so bringing a program such as this to the forefront and allowing people to discover their own sense of identity and wellness within the context that this disease doesn't define all of me. I am not the disease. There's a humanness and there's a wholeness that is still an advocacy. And that's part of a palliative approach to care. A palliative approach to care is the wholeness of the individual, psychologically, physically, socially, emotionally, spiritually. And so this is one of the ways that is an integration of a palliative approach to care.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, Melody,
Yeah.
We became involved in the project because dementia is such a huge issue in our community and probably all of our communities, because we work with people who are grieving and caregiving and dying and living with a life-limiting illness. We know many caregivers are trying to keep people at home or have no choice but to keep people at home and are struggling. And there's a gap in this type of service in our community. There's informational or support groups. There isn't this kind of specific thing for people living with dementia. And although we've gone into it expecting to hopefully improve people's health and wellness, or at least maintain it, other unexpected outcomes have come from this. So people with dementia are meeting each other and developing connections and friendships as they go through this journey and these changes together. And what could be more important? It's very motivating for me personally.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Erin.
And-
Gloria has her hand up. I want to invite Gloria to speak.
Hi, Gloria.
Hi, Gloria.
Hi. Thank you so much for such a great presentation, and it's just so beautiful to hear it articulated as such. And Erin, you actually just answered my question. I was going to ask you about unexpected outcomes, because I've been listening to this project over the last year, and there's some really beautiful things that really have come to the surface. So thank you for sharing about that, the development of friendships, which often you don't hear about when you think about somebody journeying along that dementia journey. Often you hear about the loss of friendship versus the gain of friendship. So I think that's huge. So thank you for sharing that. But I wonder, I know Melody kind of articulated this as well, but Laurie, you dropped the beautiful term called palliative wellness. And I wonder if you could just articulate a little bit more about that and give us a bit more of a sense of how you've come up with that idea of palliative wellness.
Well, I think how I look at it is that dementia is a palliative disease, and how do we live well before we die?
Yeah.
Right? How do we have the best quality of life? Our life isn't over with the diagnosis. So how can we support individual with any type of a palliative illness before death to live their best lives, so to speak, right? Through support, engagement, socialization, movement, all those sort of things. Because I think sometimes, depending on who we are, because we're all uniquely different, but you get diagnosis, especially as dementia, and it's like, well, you're scared, we almost shut down, like, why bother? I'm gonna, not remember. There's all these things that could be so challenging. So to be able to help people move through and just realize that they're still here at any time during that disease, they're still here. They're still a person, and you can do what you did before, but maybe we just modify it and do it a little differently, right? And really, be sensitive to where they are in any given time. And to me, I think that's where I feel that palliative wellness is such a great word, is because you really are trying to help them live their best life until the end. you want.
No, that's perfect.
That's, yeah, it's
Yeah.
profound. I love how you tied that together. Sorry, Gloria, go ahead. You done?
No, that's good. Thank you so much, Laurie. I saw another question pop up in the chat. So
Yeah. So it's a great question again. How does an organization initiate a program like this in their community?
Right.
So maybe you don't have the funding for this, or, what would be some of the guidelines or even assessments to going about to assess whether this is something that we could host in our community?
So we could do a needs assessment, community needs. That's how we chose, right?
I think it depends on your community if this is a gap and this is something that would fill or partially fill that gap. There's lots of really incredible dementia programs around the world where they're building communities and villages and farms that are safe for people with dementia to live and exist in and have purpose, but we don't have a bajillion dollars to do that. So I think this is very a volunteer model, has its challenges, of course, but it's a very affordable way to try something out. And we'd be happy to share anything you're interested in, the community survey, the assessments we're using, what we met about with our advisory group. We'd be happy to go offline and chat with anyone.
Yeah, and that's, when Erin mentioned the advisor group, and it's really important to know, like Erin had mentioned, that, it's a person with lived experience, a care, city council, there's a healthcare primary care, our elderly services representative. So it's quite a range of ideas that really helped us develop the program, especially in that initial part about what do we need to do, how do we get it started. So it actually took, it took a lot of insight and talking and really talking to people as well, like what are we missing in the community. And I found, just because with my experience before this role, there was a big gap between, oh well, you can go to the adult day program, or you can get this kind of funding if you're 65. And like I said, we have people that are still working, or they still drive, they're still higher functioning, but there's no other supports for them in terms of engaging other people that are the same, that have the same type of illness, right? There was the gap for the younger component. But then what we found is that, because early stage doesn't mean you're young. We have people, like I said, in their 80s that are just still, maybe driving and but are showing signs of dementia. So it's really unique I was quite surprised how well they've all connected and supported each other. It's a really beautiful thing.
Thank you. Probably the biggest question, of course, when it comes to resources, the challenge of finding and equipping volunteers, finding enough volunteers. So volunteerism, of course, has been the backbone of most every nonprofit community organization, whether it's your hockey team or your hospice organization. We've relied as a community on our volunteers. So maybe you can talk a little bit about your volunteers at the hospice, and some of them that were hospice volunteers. Did they see what was happening? Did they step into NavCare training? Like, how did you encourage and engage your volunteers to actually be a part of this and maybe to continue in this going forward?
Yeah, I'll start with like what we planned to do, and Laurie can talk about what's actually happening, because that is a huge, huge issue. We have a hospice facility and resale stores, and it's quite a big program here in Prince George. We have 100 volunteers for that, and it is very challenging, especially since the pandemic, to recruit volunteers, particularly volunteers to make a commitment of every twice a month or once a week or whatever. And the vision here was recognizing that, how are we going to pull this off, was to draw on specific interests that would call people to it, or they would see themselves in it. Yeah. So Facebook ads like, do you play Dungeons and Dragons? Are you a golfer? To like pique my interest. Oh yeah, I do that. and what's this about? And it's about matching you with someone who also plays Dungeons and Dragons, because that's different from what anyone is doing in volunteer recruitment in our community. And as an introvert myself, I really feel like you've got to make me feel comfortable and safe. I got to see myself in it. I got to know what it is, what's going to happen to me. So we're trying to do that for our volunteer recruitment. But do you want to talk about what's actually happening, the successes, the challenges?
Yeah, it's not a paid position, so it's just people want to volunteer, but it's to get someone who is consistent is probably the biggest challenge. However, the volunteers that are in the program really enjoy the program, and they're very glad they are part of the program. But it is definitely it is hard, that recruiting of volunteers, and just because you need the right people to do it. They need to be social, be able to engage people, and not be afraid to engage someone with dementia, right? And again,
Laurie,
yeah.
go ahead. I was just going to say, I think in your preamble, when you were speaking about, you said something, you had 32 volunteers. Was that as a part of this compassionate dementia inclusive community? Were those the 32 that were trained in NAV care?
It's in NAV care and the dementia component as well. So that was between Prince George Council of Seniors and Hospice. Right. So I think we had 13.
Okay.
And Prince George Council of Seniors had the rest, and they're more navigators and friendly visitors for carers. Yeah. So it's not always consistent in terms of the volunteers that come, but it's not that bad either. Like, it seems we usually have, especially for our events, there's always usually volunteers. And I saw someone asked how many we have. So client wise, we have 15 that are in the program. And at any given time, we can have anywhere from, I'm going to say 7 to maybe 11 show up.
Oh, wow.
And then we have at least 2 volunteers and myself that do the program as well. So it's quite a bit. And it's just amazing, like even word of mouth, how community organizations want to be a part of it. Like next week, just an example is there's a flower shop that has reached out and is bringing all their flowers here. And on Tuesday, we're making little arrangements for everyone gets to make one and take one home. And she donated that service.
Wow.
So it's amazing. People want to help. They just don't know how.
So what we hear is, where there's partnerships, the broader the partnerships, the more engagement in the partnerships, the more reciprocated they are. And sharing the stories, sharing the impact stories of how this has impacted an individual or their family is a really key way as well of continuing to spread the program worthiness and the value of what you've been doing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, I spoke about the community cafe that we're doing, and, the clients are the greeters. They're taking lead on the tables. We didn't want to showcase, people living with dementia and their carers. So they took the reins and they said, well, let's do this, let's do that. Let's make table arrangements. Let's put our paintings out. Let's, we'll have pictures. We'll have, and it was, and by them doing that, they feel like you're valued and their opinion matters and they belong to something and this is theirs. So it's such a great program. Like, I just, can't say enough about how well it's turned out.
Well, I think you've just stated a very powerful truth, which is, when we're included, when we're valued, then there's ownership. And the ownership is a reciprocating wheel again. When I own something and I'm passionate about it, I can give it out as well, and I can advocate it. And you've infused that through this program, and the individuals continue to do that alongside of each other. That's powerful. So we do still have some time. If anyone else has any other questions or comments, or perhaps there's something going on in your community that you want to share, maybe it dovetails something, or there's further information you'd like from Erin and Laurie, they're here at your fingertips right now. Anyone else?
You know, Melanie, I was thinking, you know, this is a disease that you simply can't do alone. And we always talk to the carers about it, and we talk to the people living with dementia about it. But when we can't do it alone, it even means the programming and the supports. Like, we can't do it alone. We need to have volunteers. We need the community involved to be able to sustain the program. And so it's just, you know, the statement is so true in all levels.
Yeah, can't do it alone. Michelle just has a comment in here. I believe I've seen subsequent Zoom meetings on this one. Are they an extension of this? So on behalf of the BC Centre, what we are doing is trying to create a series now that incorporates the community work and the aspects of community health and healthcare providers. So you may see some as an extension. Sometimes there have been other ones around compassionate communities. The one that has been done back in March was an overview of compassionate dementia-inclusive communities, the whole program that Prince George Hospice and the other sites across Canada were participating in. So that is on the website or on our YouTube platform. You can go back and look at the overall program. But there will be other sites that will be presenting in the coming months in the 2026 year. And just as a plug here, shamelessly, I'm going to say, if you want to stay in touch, be sure that you just look at the email or subscribe to this program, and you will see everything that comes up in the upcoming series for the next months. I just want to say thank you so much to Prince George, to your team, to Donna Flood and the whole team. I know Erin and Laurie are here presenting now, but as she said, they didn't do this alone. There's a huge team that backed them up, as well as the program support that came through Gloria and the UBC and Health Canada. Thank you very much to each one of you online here. We'll stay online if you really have another question, or just because we're at the end of our conversation. If you need to leave, please do so. Thank you so much for sharing your time. If you need any other information, you will receive the follow-up email with the links here. Is there a contact person in Prince George to talk to at another time? Yes, that would be these two amazing gals, both Laurie and Erin. And if you just Google Prince George Hospice, their beautiful profiles are on there, and you could probably email them directly there, or it'll be in the follow-up link of this presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much for the questions and the comments. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Terry. Terry Weber. Thank you for making this presentation more focused on quality and compassion and caring rather than the science of our programs. That focus alone will promote confidence in people to see the need and use their hearts to do something about it. Whoa, that's the wrap-up comment of the day.
That really supports the name of the program.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an awesome day.